We're rolling now.
Yeah.
Good thing about yesterday, though. Police around Churchill. Good thing.
Oh, I missed that.
They just broke up a meeting. Yeah?
I went down to Westminster
You done it, police?
in the morning with the ladies.
Yeah.
On church services, permitted, eh? Well, actually, the
Firstly, I'd like to say,
worship.
Yeah, I mean, that's
welcome back to Speaker's
one
Corner.
of many outrages. Heiko's on.
I will be speaking about the events of the last year and also about more recent events. I've written I'm writing pretty much a book on what's been happening. I've done 2 chapters here, fully referenced with scientific data, scientific information. I'll try and run you through the basics of that first of all, so you've got an idea of where I'm coming from, and so that if any of these videos make it onto YouTube, that they can't at least claim that these aren't scientifically verified arguments, because they are verified arguments, and I can send the paper to anybody who wants to receive the paper, which has got detailed explanations and references on peer-reviewed journals on which the entire document is based. So first I'm going to start with some basics. And I've learned this over the last year by studying research papers, documents, books and so on. Because I didn't know, last year when I stood here on the 8th of March and called for a 3-week lockdown, I didn't understand what viruses are. And I didn't understand about the dynamics of epidemiology, medicine of it and so on. I came from a background of understanding about China, and I thought that from what had happened in China that it would be justified to shut down. I used the word a de facto general strike for 3 weeks because I believed, or I understood, that the fatality rate from this disease was 3%. It turns out that was completely false. Now, I came here in April last year, and Piers Corbyn, my good friend and comrade, came here as well. We discussed. He had one view, I had another view. It turns out on most of the questions, Piers was right and I was wrong. And I'll specify one particular issue, because Jeremy Corbyn turned up yesterday on a demonstration in Parliament Square. And we turned up here, Piers and myself and others from Let London Live. And Jeremy Corbyn made a big point when he spoke on Parliament Square yesterday of saying that coronavirus is a real thing. It's a serious illness and so on. Now, I am not disputing that coronavirus is a real thing. However, Piers was arguing about a year ago that
we can have no more than 6 in a group, please. Thank you.
just keep a little bit of distance. The police officer wants to make a point by shutting down a Christian meeting over there. And so I want to make a point, as I've tried to do with the police over the last year, that we will abide at Speaker's Corner by distancing if they want, although it's nonsense, and I'll explain to you why it's nonsense as we go along. But I don't want them to have an excuse to try and arrest us and stop us from meeting. And my voice is perfectly capable of carrying to 200 or 300 people at a distance, so I'm not bothered about that. But I will get on to that question shortly, but first I want to deal with the basics. Now, a virus, what is it? It's a strand of RNA or DNA that enters into a cell. It is not a living thing. When it enters into a cell, it makes the cell multiply the virus. There are something like, let me just get the figures, I've written them down here. There are 100 million more viruses on Earth than there are stars in the universe. If you put together all the viruses on Earth, they would stretch for 100 light years. 100 light years. Now, a virus, we know about masks, right? I was in Soho earlier on, and I saw everyone, or nearly everyone, wearing masks. Now, Piers said to me in April last year, a mask is useless. It's as useless as trying to stop a flea going through the fence. Now, I thought this was incorrect at the time, but he was right. You can get 500 million, that's more than the population of Europe, 500 million rhinoviruses on the head of a pin.
So what?
The idea that a mask can stop you passing a virus or receiving a virus is absolute nonsense. It has no foundation in science whatsoever. Now, I originally said, okay, there is an argument for wearing a mask like the gentleman here has got. It's called a surgical mask. But the argument for wearing a surgical mask, it's called a surgical mask for a simple reason. It's to prevent surgeons, when they cut a body open to operate on it, from spreading droplets, which could be infected with something, into the human body of a patient they are opening up. A surgical mask is to prevent surgeons infecting people they are cutting up. That's what it's for. It serves no purpose outside of a clinical setting. This is not my point of view. It was stated by the World Health Organization. It was stated by Anthony Fauci. It was stated by Patrick Vallance, Sir Patrick Vallance, sorry. After all, he's got £700,000 of shares in AstraZeneca, so he deserves to be bowed down to. Look at the number of people who've been jabbed with it. And only 7 got a rare blood clot in the brain in Britain so far. Now, and Chris Twitty as we like to call him, he also said wearing a mask is not going to be useful outside a clinical setting. But the situation became extremely dangerous in the late autumn of last year, when, as a result of the government carrying out barbaric and idiotic policies in relation to segregation and separation and identification of those supposedly with SARS-CoV-2 or COVID. They mix the two together, of course, just to show how ignorant they are. SARS-CoV-2 is the virus. COVID-19 is a disease, a serious disease. They are not the same thing. No.
Oh, go away! Shut up! Fuck off!
As a candidate in the London Assembly.
Shut us down again!
Who is in 6? You?
Darcy! Separate out, please!
The officer here.
You can be here, just a proof of sex, please.
09! Look, it's the psychopath. This guy is attacked. He is attacked. A number of speakers at Speaker's Corner set violence. Aggressive. What happened with the inquiry into Nicholas Scott? Please abide by what he's saying. This is a very violent and aggressive man. There is an inquiry which I launched against you. There are 2 separate police inquiries into this man's physical assault on people at Speaker's Corner. I'm going to stop until you go away. I want you to go away.
Go away! Go away! Go away! Go away!
Go away!
Go away!
Get your senior commander, immediately. The most senior commander. What? Rogues command, gold command. I don't care, I'm not having you. You have a personal vendetta against me. I am not having you. Any other officers, please? So, are you in command? Are you in command of him? No. You get the commander. I don't want him. I don't want him. He's violent.
Not allowed to speak out. He's campaigning as well.
He's campaigning for
He
London
is
Assembly.
campaigning. We have to take the work.
This man is a violent, aggressive policeman.
Go away!
No, I want the most senior commander to come here now.
He's campaigning.
The most senior commander. Please, the most senior commander you've got today in the park. I've made a request. I don't see why it's a problem.
How many people have had
Pope.
No, I'm just waiting to find out. That's all.
Have you asked?
No, I haven't gone and asked it because I'm more concerned. I'm to stay here to keep the peace. Okay, then we'll go and get.
He is the danger. That man is the danger, not you. I'm fine with you. That man is a violent man. He's a violent man.
He's a useless.
I have made two separate reports.
He is a useless.
We have video. You want to see the video? Have you seen the video of Nicholas Scholes' arrest? Have you seen the video of Nicholas Scholes' arrest? I will show it to you now. Then you tell me if he's violent or not. That man is a head case. Hands up who's seen that man aggressively attack people.
Yes, we're witness.